Good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Felicity Keogh with our fourth Facebook Live in this series, Fertile in St. Louis. Good morning. It's good to be here with you guys today. I just want to start by saying that I want to acknowledge all of you guys for hopefully you've been getting some information from these Facebook Lives and watching Dr. Emily and I on these Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. And I just want to acknowledge you for that. Maybe you're not watching them live because of something else, but maybe you go back and you look at them while you're working out or driving to work or whatever, cleaning the house. If you're doing that, then you're somebody who's looking for answers for their health and for their family's health, and I just want to acknowledge you for that. It's really tough to get the answers that we're looking for a lot of times when it comes to our health, and it takes a lot of research and just self-discovery and trying to figure things out. So I want to acknowledge you all for that. And today we are going to talk all about plastics. And that's actually something that we were talking about. I was talking about 2 weeks ago on the Facebook Live with all the environmental toxins that we deal with on a daily basis. So I'm going to kind of pick up from there and get a little bit more in detail and in depth about plastics. So pretty much, as you know, and we've talked about this, we live in a toxic environment. We're surrounded by it. We have toxic wastes and heavy metals and other chemicals, man-made and naturally occurring chemicals that are inside our body all the time. And there's not really a whole lot we can do to stop that because we live in a toxic environment. We're loaded with them. And we do need to work on getting these out of our body, but it's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of time and a lot of working with the right provider to help that to happen. So the best thing that we can start doing today is to prevent them from getting in our tissue, right? Just to try to prevent the burden that comes with just living in our environment. So I also want to just make a quick mention on, people who have a harder time detoxifying their bodies. Somebody that deals with, for example, the MTHFR genetic mutation, which is really common. A lot of people have heard of MTHFR at this point, and that's basically an issue that we have with our genes that affects our ability to detoxify and to methylate. So, for example, myself, I have a copy of the C677T as well as the A129.8C. So I have a really tough genetic makeup when it comes to detoxifying my body. And I can have up to 60% issue with just detoxification. As opposed to somebody like my husband, for example, who has one copy of the A129.8C, he's going to have a lot easier time with detoxifying his body, of whatever it is that should not be in his body. So that's really something that I want to encourage everybody to look at if you haven't already. There's tests like the 23andMe. In my practice, I use SpectraCell Labs. I know Dr. Emily, this is her specialty, and she goes above and beyond. Her knowledge on this is above and beyond what I have. So she's really in tune with MTHFR and how to test for that. But there are a lot of things that you can do to figure out what your genetic makeup is in that regard and how that might be impacting your health from a fertility standpoint, from an ability to detoxify. So knowing that is going to be really helpful. Because that's going to impact how well we can detoxify these things that we're going to talk about out of our bodies. So, like I said, it's much easier to just prevent these things from getting into our body in the first place. There's something called body burden, which is the amount of man-made chemicals and toxic chemicals that are in our body at any one time. And it's a dynamic thing because some days we're going to be exposed to more chemicals and other days we're going to be exposed to less. So, the biggest thing we can start doing is helping our bodies detoxify from this and try to limit as much as we can from our environment, which we're going to get to in just a minute. But we are exposed by things like our air, our water, our food, and just lifestyle in general. And some of that stuff we cannot control. But there is a lot that we can do as well to control some of that. I did find a really interesting site that kind of relates back to body burden. It's called Scorecard, the pollution information site. I actually highly recommend everybody going to that website, and I'll put it in the links today, so you can actually see what is in your immediate environment wherever you're living. It's something you plug in your zip code and you get a report back on all of the things that you are breathing in and whatever is around you, and how that might, you might get some insight on how that's affecting your health and your family's health. So obviously some people, if they live in a really toxic environment, the best thing they're going to do is move, because that's really the only thing they can do. Otherwise, that's just a really interesting site that I found, so I highly recommend looking at that. Some other ways which our body burden can be affected is by things that are in our control, like the food that we're eating. What is our gut health? Do we have really good microbiome? Are we eating processed or unprocessed foods? Are we eating foods that are raw or cooked? Are we eating foods are we eating GMO foods, genetically modified foods? Are we eating high glycemic foods? That's going to stress our body out. Arsenic, which is an interesting one. Arsenic is found in a lot of rice products and chicken, which unfortunately, a lot of people are not doing gluten right now, so then they go and do rice, but just being aware of the burden that comes with eating too many rice products because of the arsenic. Overeating, undereating, eating while stressed. I know I'm super guilty of eating while stressed because that's just, my life is just kind of on the go. So I eat a lot of the times when I'm not in a relaxed setting. And when we do that, we don't think about chewing our food. We don't think about, taking nice, thorough bites, and we kind of swallow chunks of food. And that's going to impact our body burden as well. So those are some things that we can do that's in our control, of course. And we touched on those last week. Now I'm going to get into the dangers of plastic, right? Plastics are not safe. We are exposed to plastic via baby bottles, water bottles, food containers, thermal paper receipts that we get at the grocery store or wherever we get receipts, medical and dental devices, eyeglass lenses, and household electronics. That's just some of them. And BPA that is basically found inside plastic. The recycling codes 3 and 7, which is really what's used to make plastic shatterproof, clear, and it's pretty much everywhere. It's even inside the canned foods and beverages that we are eating and drinking. And what's the problem with BPA? Well, it's an endocrine disruptor, and that's really what we're talking about with this whole Facebook Live series is the hormonal system and people that are having trouble conceiving a child or maintaining a pregnancy, like looking back at our hormones. It's a xenohormone, which is basically an estrogen mimicker. So that binds to our estrogen receptors, and that's going to affect our hormonal system. It's going to affect our nervous system, our immune system. It actually blocks some thyroid activity. So there's a lot of reasons we want to keep BPA out of our immediate environment as much as we can. And children and babies are being exposed in the womb to this if the mom is, dealing with a lot of drinking out of plastic or exposing herself as well. And 2 weeks ago I talked about the Starbucks, and when we go to get our coffee or our tea or whatever our favorite beverage is, by law they have to put that coffee lid, that plastic lid, on top of the coffee to protect anybody from burning themselves. But if we are exposing ourselves to that hot liquid through the plastic lid, we're essentially just poisoning ourselves with BPA. So thinking about that, I had some people come to me after that Facebook Live and just tell me how disappointed they were to hear that going to get their favorite beverage might be affecting their endocrine system and their hormonal health. But there's ways around that. So one of my patients came up to me after that video, and she told me that the way she was dealing with it is she's bringing in her stainless steel mug to the Starbucks barista, and they're filling it up for her. So it's really easy. Just bring in your mug and tell them you want your coffee in this cup instead of in the plastic cup. It's real simple. Or make your coffee at home. But that's just one way that a lot of people are exposed to BPA on a daily basis. So here's some more ways that BPA affects our health. It leaches into baby bottles. So if we are giving our babies formula or breast milk out of a plastic bottle, thinking about the impacts of that, especially when we're warming it up in the warmer, because remember, heat is going to make this worse. It's going to make more BPA leach into that liquid. So we may think like, I'm fine. I've been drinking out of plastic bottles and eating out of plastic containers for a long time, and I'm fine. I have no issues with my fertility, but that stuff builds in our system, and it really starts early on. So ask your parents, like, hey, did I drink out of a plastic bottle when I was a baby? Just thinking about all the ways that we're being affected from the get-go, and use glass bottles for your babies. Like it's a super simple fix. Just switch to glass. BPA has also been linked to breast cancer because it increases estrogen receptors, and estrogen plays a big role in those cancers, in those estrogen-based cancers. It's been shown to impact infant brain development. It causes young girls to hit puberty a lot earlier. BPA is also connected with obesity because the thought process there is that it increases the body fat by speeding up the formation of fat cells. And really, we also, going back to kids, we don't really think about how often our kids are being exposed, especially when they're in the womb. So, just keeping in mind that it's coming at us at all angles, and everything we can do to reduce that toxic load on our bodies and our children's bodies is so important. And then when kids are born, they're, like I said, they're being fed out of plastic bottles and plastic containers, and so that exposure starts so young. A lot of times, even the moment of conception. So other things, plastic has been shown when babies are affected in the womb to disfigure genitals. It's actually been shown to increase the risk of childhood asthma. This is a really interesting one. It kills the female libido. And a lot of other colleagues of mine, I'm sure, would agree, but when I talk to women on a daily basis, and that's something that we ask about, like how's your libido, how's your sex drive, I would say most of my female patients tell me that their libido is in the tank, and it always has been. And that's not normal. So despite how good the marriage is or the relationship is, or how maybe it isn't good, like whatever it is, the libido stays in the tank. So that's a problem. So if you know somebody that's dealing with that, or you're dealing with that, you really need to get yourself looked at and really get your hormones evaluated and get checked for dysfunction in those levels, because that's something that's not normal for your libido to always be low. Also, plastic just damages our earth, right? It's affecting our waterways. It's polluting our earth, basically. And interesting fact, 6 different phthalates, which is a type of plastic, has been removed from children's products in our country, but those are being found in our food system. So even though they're being removed from the toys that these children are playing with, they're being found in our food. So somehow these are ending up in our food, and that's a problem before we even take them home to eat them. So plastics are everywhere, and plastics have a lot of risk when it comes to our health, especially our fertility, and they affect our children as well. So the next step we need to talk about is working with a provider to figure out what the status of your health is. Like in my practice, we do a lot of expanded blood panels, just to look at general metabolic function and look at hormone balance and look at nutrient deficiencies, immune system status, you name it. We can also test for MTHFR and see if that's something that you're dealing with. And if you are, then we can make some changes so you can actually support your genes to work better for you, because it's not just that you have a bad set of genetic mutations like I do. It's all about what you're feeding your body and how you're supporting your genetics so they can work the best for you. It's kind of the same as like cancer genes. We all have some, genes for chronic disease, but that doesn't mean that we're going to develop chronic disease. It's a matter of how well we are supporting those genes and supporting our healthy lifestyle. There's also tests that we can do that look for BPA exposure. So if that's something that you think that you're dealing with, or I think that you're dealing with, we can actually look and see if you have that BPA exposure. And then from there we can assess, okay, now we need to avoid it on this level and actually help you to detoxify, and we can kind of work with you after we have all that information. But yeah, there's a huge issue with BPA. Here's another list, and this is kind of for children and adults, but BPA toxicity can be related to ADD, ADHD, adult onset diabetes, allergies, asthma, brain fog. I won't read all of these. Hormone imbalance, infertility, risk of cancer, thyroid issues, reproductive system issues. So there's a huge long list of health problems that are related back to BPA, and that's just one of the many toxins and chemicals that we are dealing with on a daily basis. So hopefully that helps you to kind of understand that even though this stuff's in our environment and we're surrounded by it at all times, there's a lot that can be done to prevent burdening our body more and helping us to get that, to work to detoxify, to get those out of our system safely so you can be healthier and correct some of the health issues that you're dealing with, whether that be fertility, neurological issues, brain fog, whatever it is. Oops. So hopefully that was helpful. This is a little bit shorter Facebook Live today because we talked so much about this 2 weeks ago with the environmental toxins. So if you like the information today, please let me know. Drop me a line and let me know what you're doing to decrease your toxic burden in your home for yourself and for your family. And I'm honored again to speak with you guys today, and I look forward to the next time I'm with you. Also, just a reminder to, if you haven't already, sign up for our guide, our free guide, by going to the Facebook page, Fertile in St. Louis. And it's a free guide. It's 10 easy ways to boost your fertility and maintain a healthy pregnancy. So really, really quick and easy read. So if you haven't done that yet, definitely want to do that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you in a couple Fridays. Bye.